presence in the gallery of members of the Japan AU Parliamentary Friendship Association delegation led by their chairperson, the Honorable Ichiro Aisawa MP. Honorable members, you are very welcome to South Africa and to the Parliament. Honorable members, the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President of the Republic. Honorable members, members may press the talk button on their desks if they wish to ask a supplementary question. And I wish to remind honorable members that the names of members requesting supplementary questions will be cleared as soon as the Honorable President starts answering the fourth supplementary question. The first question has been asked by the Honorable N. Mafu. The Honorable the President.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, allow me to begin by extending warm wishes to the Muslim community who are celebrating Eid al-Adha today. More than 2,500 Muslims from our country have traveled to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to join an estimated 2 million Muslims from around the world for the Hajj pilgrimage. We wish these pilgrims rather, well in their prayers as well as their sacrifices, and wish them a safe return home. To the question asked by Honorable Mafu, the urban spatial patterns that we inherited from apartheid and which persist to this day contribute to the reproduction of poverty and inequality, and many of us agree that they must be fundamentally changed, because it is unacceptable that the working class and the poor in our country, who are overwhelmingly black, are located far from opportunities of work and amenities in our country. Among other things, this places enormous pressure on their family life. Working parents leave home early every morning and return late after their children have gone to sleep. These long commuting times impact disproportionately on the household income of the poor. According to Stats South Africa, more than 2/3 of households in our country who are in the lowest income quartile spend more than 20%, and in some cases it goes up to 30% of their monthly income per capita on public transport. But the progressive transformation of our urban spaces is not just about radically addressing social poverty and racial inequalities. We must make our cities generators of wealth and reservoirs of productivity. And the only way we can do so is to make sure that our people live much closer to where they work and also do not spend too much money on transport. We need to eradicate the economic inefficiencies of transporting a workforce from a dormitory townships into centers. The radical transformation of our urban spaces is therefore both a social and economic imperative. through instruments like Special Planning and Land Use Management Act and the Integrated Urban Development Framework, we are approaching spatial planning guided by principles of social equity and economic efficiency. We are focused on developing integrated human settlements that are located close to work and amenities rather than just meeting what you would call housing targets. At the same time, through a significant investment in township economy, we are working to bring economic activity to where most of our people live. To accelerate spatial transformation, Cabinet resolved at its recent Lekgotla on the rapid release of well-located but underutilized land to develop affordable mixed-income housing settlements. Much of this land is owned publicly, but it is also owned by various other departments, provincial governments and municipalities, as well as state-owned enterprises. Some of this land is privately held for purely speculative purposes. We need, in our view, to use every inch of our country to enable people to live and those who want to farm to be able to farm. We have a responsibility which is imposed on us by our Constitution to ensure that all South Africans have security of tenure, while extending title deeds to a greater number of households is a priority. We should also secure less expensive and less complicated forms of tenure for households in informal settlement, in rental arrangements, and in areas of communal land tenure. We need to develop a continuum of use and ownership tenure rights. It is in this regard that we are going to be able to use various mechanisms and measures to ensure that our people do indeed get land where they can build their houses, where they can farm, so that we can achieve social and economic spatial transformation in towns and in cities. To build the cities and the towns that we want, it is critical that government, the private sector, as well as the NGO sector work together to create a sustainable growth model of compact, connected, and coordinated urban areas by integrating and aligning investments. This should form part of the broader social compact which we envisaged in the National Development Plan and which in many different ways we want to see working. Elements of this approach are already found in the funding and fiscal framework of the Department of Human Settlements. Through all these measures, including building compacts, we believe that we should be able to transform our urban spaces, ensure that the spatial architecture that we inherited from apartheid is completely transformed, and in doing all this, we'll be able to strengthen property rights for all South Africans, and we can ensure that the poor and working class live in decent communities that are located near economic opportunities, and that parents can return home from long working days to be with their children and be able to see their children before they go asleep. I thank you. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mafu.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Agbare President, Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
De besluit van Staat Kaapstad om 9 gezinnen van Bromwelstraat en Woodstock te onvordeel en verschrijf na tijdelijke verblijf en vergelijke gebieden bij Wolwervier en Blekkersdorp is een manier om de Gestel van voor 1994, apartheid, ruimtelijke beplanning en standbehoud. De ANC loof en verwelkom de West-Kaapse Hooggerechtshof uitspraak oor hierdie aangeleentheid, wat inderdaad de waardigheid van Bromwellstraat se inwoners en ere. Mongameli, yeyiphi inkqubo enokulandelwa okanye yintoni enokwenziwa ukunciphisa ukuziphatha okuphikisana nenguqu nokumilisela iyantlukwano phakathi kweentlanga engokwamazinga okuhlala ngeli xesha kuvalelwa ngaphandle amahlwempu njengokuba sisendleleni yokuchitha nokuguqula indlela yokuhlaliswa kwabantu ngokwahlukeneyo yamandulo. Okwesibini, Mongameli, akunakuba kuhle ukuba urhulumente akhe abe nelizwi kumba wokuthengiswa komhlaba wasezifama ukuthintela amaxabiso abaxiweyo anokubangela ukubaxeka kwamaxabiso okuthengiswa komhlaba eMzantsi Afrika. Comrade President, thank you very much for your response. This confirms the ANC's belief that all shall have the right to live where they choose. And therefore, thank you very much.
The Honorable the President.
Mudzulatshidulo ndiyalibuwa mbudziso heinoni yoveiwawo ya uri haya mafhungo a u dzulisana zwavhuḓi vhukati ha vhathu vhoṱhe ri nga ita hani uri a phethee nga nḓila yo fanelaho. Rine ri vha muvhuso riri zwi a fanela uri vhathu nga tshifhinga tshoṱhe ri wane dzinḓila dzine dza vha dzavhuḓi dza uri vhathu vha dzulisane nga nḓila yo fanelaho hu sina uri ri a khethululana. When we deal with issues of spatial land development, we need to take into account the values and the principles that are enshrined in our Constitution. And those values speak to how we embrace diversity, how we seek in embracing our diversity to make sure that indeed all of us embrace one another and are able to lead a prosperous and happy life. And to do so, we have to take measures to move away from the divisions that were created by our apartheid past. And as we do that, the government also has to take measures that should include how land should be distributed and how our people should be given proper rights to occupy and to own land, also in the urban areas as well as in the rural areas. It is precisely this that we want to focus on to ensure that our land reform program does in the end impact positively on the lives of our people and does improve their livelihood so that our people are able to get land where they can build their homes and where they can live in peace with their families. Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honorable Shivambu.
Honorable Speaker, the Commander-in-Chief is appearing on the list there. Can he be the one that takes the question?
Thank you very much, Speaker. President, ntho e tlhagile mo ka pele mo ba goga ngwana sekolo mola a kgopela thuto ya mahala wa mo goga ka dikgoka ka mokgwa wa ntwa ke ntwa e re swantse re kgalemele because ntwa e be mo South Africa kgatlhanong le bana le basadi e tšwetša pele ke dilo tša mohuta o gore ge re fapana re swantše re lwe ka matsogo. The first thing they did was not to talk to that young person. Ba no fitlha ba lwa le yena, and re ruta society gore ge o fapana le motho o swantše o sebediše dikgoka, and a se yona taba eo. Now, President, during the public hearings, our people came out in their numbers to support land expropriation without compensation. Many of them have said they want the land to build clinics, they want to build houses, they want to build shops, they want to use the land to benefit themselves and the nations out of South Africa. A point that you also agree with, particularly land expropriation without compensation. Our people are now subjected to concentration camps, which we call townships, and mislead ourselves that those things are residential areas. When they were planned, those things, they were not planned as residential areas. They were planned as concentration camps. Now, did you come up with a plan and instruct the Minister of Human Settlement to expropriate land closer to towns and suburbs where we can settle our people properly and take them out of that type of an arrangement of concentration camps? Because we cannot continue to subject our people to a situation that is inhumane, where others even say we must give them title deeds to be
Honourable
permanently
member, your
stuck
time
in
has
that
expired.
arrangement. So we're asking, are we going to expropriate land closer to the suburbs, defeat
Your time has
racism,
expired,
and create
and I gave
mixed
you a
residential
minute
areas?
more.
Thank you, Speaker.
The Honourable, the President.
Thank you, Morena Malema. Kine ki lebeletse pampirie ke bala phetulo a kya sheba botse ka mo le go bona ntwe o no shebane le yona ke a leboga gore wena o e bone haiba e etsagetse ka tsela o e tlhalosang ke dumelana le wena gore ha re le mo ntlong e ya parlamente a go a tshwanela gore batho ba ntshiwe ka yona tsela e o buang ka yona gore ba gogiwe re sa bolela le bona bjale re tla kgopela gore ba ba šomang mo parlamente pele ba etsa ntho tseuwe tsa go goga batho ka dihempe le ka di-washing ba bolele le bona pele o tlhagisitse ntho e ntle gagolo ke a go leboga Moramalema. Bjale, coming to the question that you have posed, clearly, as we have said, our people are in need of land where they can build their homes and where they can farm and where they can also build facilities for various amenities. And a number of these places are strewn right across the length and the breadth of our country, and some of them are in urban areas. And indeed, as I said earlier, the Khotla of our government decided that we should embark on a rapid release of land. And firstly, as we are examining this whole process, we want to start off with land that is owned by our various entities. Local government owns large tracts of land in the urban areas, and we believe that and want that land to be released so that it be given to our people, and it must be released at service stands. Our people must be given that land, and indeed it is releasing the land, Honorable Malema. Releasing the land means that that land, as it is owned by our local entities, does not even need to be bought. And if you like, yes, it is a form of expropriation that will end up in the hands of our people. Because it is for public interest, we are advancing the interests of our people. Secondly, quite a bit of the land in some areas is owned by state-owned enterprises, and some is owned by various government departments, and we're saying that those pieces of land must be identified and must be released, serviced, and given to our people so that they can build their houses. Many of our people want to build their own houses in the urban areas, and so that we move away from the apartheid special planning process that relegated poor and black people to far away places from the places of work. And our new development is that we should move our people closest to the economic centers of our economy. And in this regard, we believe that the measures that we should take, including expropriation of land, including release of land, should enable us to give effect to this policy that we are talking about. So on that score, we agree with you completely. We want rapid release of publicly owned land. Now, there is also land that is owned by individuals, as I said in my main answer. Some of it is held for speculative reasons. Some of it is just lying fallow. And we are saying our entities, our local governments must examine all that so that we can package pieces of land like that and then be able, on an informed basis, to determine how we should deal with land like that. Now, all that will be done in an orderly fashion, in accordance with our Constitution, in accordance with the convention that we should establish in dealing with land. And I believe that we can now embark on a very positive process of ensuring that we make true the promise that we made, that we want our people to have a better life, and doing so means that we should give them places where they can live, and they should live and work closer to the economic centers of our country. So if you like, we agree with you, that's precisely what we're going to do. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, you speak about creating a better life for our people. You speak about human settlement and housing, Mr. President. You talk about land expropriation and also without compensation. But, Mr. President, while we're talking about creating a better life, take the community of East Street sitting in there in the gallery. For 21 years, they're being humiliated, intimidated, harassed, threatened to be evicted. Would not a single political party, particularly the opposition, that are members in this House, want to assist that community because they're too busy fighting the ANC for power and control? Now, Mr. President, is it within your mandate as national government to protect these people from East Ridge in the Mitchell's Plain, and particularly the others that were thrown out recently and evicted by the Democratic Alliance? Or is it not within the mandate of national government to protect the interests of the people in the provinces, particularly where you don't govern? Now, on the one hand, we want to create a better life. On the other hand, evictions are taking place every day in the Western Cape. Land that you're talking about in the urban areas are being sold. Shouldn't there be a moratorium in the interest of these people, particularly this East Ridge community, Mr. President? I'd like you to tell you how you're going to intervene to save them with the harassment that they are facing at the hands of the Democratic Alliance in the Western Cape.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Imam. Our task as a government is to protect our people. Our task is to advance their interests, and anything that militates against that is something that we should act against. And in this regard, we would say that we want our people to have a better life, and we want our people to be accommodated in a decent manner. And in fact, we would say that we need all of us to move away from acts that will be resulting in the movement of people, the eviction of people. And if there are areas where our people are being evicted, we say it must stop. It must stop with immediate effect. We cannot go back to the methods of the apartheid regime where our people were moved left, right, and center. And if any entity, be it a local government, provincial government, has a need to take any step or move in relation to land, they must first take into account the interests of our people, because we must at all times put the interests of our people first. The lives and the interests of our people count much more than the amount of money that they can make in selling pieces of land. So my view is that those moves to sell land over the heads of our people must stop. We must be able to have discussions with our people to find ways in which all these things can be dealt with. I am totally opposed to the eviction of people, the mass movement of people from areas, particularly places where they've lived in forever and a day. My own family, I say this with conviction because my own family was moved from Western Native Township in 1962, where mass removals just happened. The trucks just moved in and moved the whole township to Soweto. And it was being moved so that a part of Triumph, which was Sophia Town, can be created. So those wounds remain deep in our memory. And to see that happening today is totally against what we should be standing for as a nation. So we are against it.
The Honorable Sitole.
Thank you, Speaker. Honorable President, for many years now, there has been talk about transforming our urban spaces in order to make our city more efficient and equitable, and to assist those in such spaces who have previously been marginalized and still live in the poverty. My question related to existing hostel dwellers currently residing in our urban spaces. What is being done to assist them? What plans are in place to bring radical economic transformation to those residing in our hostels? Thank you, Speaker.
The Honorable President.
Part of our human settlement policy is, yes, to one, eradicate those old hostels that many of us grew up knowing, hostels where people were just accommodated as though they were in prison camps. And if we have to have people living in single accommodation, it should be decent buildings that are built for people who should feel that they are indeed being cared for by their government. And therefore, in doing all that, we are encouraging local government entities, municipalities, to look at the places where hostels are. And I know for a fact, for instance, in the Soweto area, a lot is being done to transform some of those hostels into more decent living accommodation. So it is part of the program that we are looking at, and we need to continue looking at. Our human settlement policy is directly also focusing on improving areas where our people live. And hostels that were built in the past were quite horrible places. And the sad part is that some of them still exist and our people still live in them. And we therefore want to start moving so that we move people out of them and we create better and decent accommodation for our people to live in. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 14, asked by the Leader of the Opposition. The Honorable President.
Honorable members, creating employment, but creating employment particularly for young people and women is the most urgent and critical priority for our country at this moment of the history of our country. The most recent unemployment figures are a clear signal that we cannot continue at the current pace of economic growth. And I must say that our unemployment figures, which I looked at very recently, are quite on the high side, and they are quite worrying. And a number of countries around the world are also experiencing precisely the same type of problem that we are experiencing. We must treat unemployment as a burning platform, a challenge that requires extraordinary measures and exceptional efforts that we need to make to address this. To succeed, it is essential that we understand the causes of the massive unemployment rate in our country, the historical reliance on raw commodity exports, and the deliberate underdevelopment and economic marginalization of the majority of our people resulted in the structural unemployment that has been a prominent feature of our economy since the 1980s. Following the dawn of democracy, we were able to create jobs on a scale never seen before in the history of South Africa. In 1994, so that it is clearly known, in 1994, we had 8.8 million people working in our country. Today, we have 16.3 million people who are in employment. In other words, in 25 years, we have doubled the number of working people in our economy. Despite an absolute increase in the number of people employed, South Africa's unemployment rate has remained stubbornly high as the population has grown and more people have entered the workforce. Put simply, we have not been creating enough jobs to keep up with those people who enter the labor market on an annual basis seeking work. That is why this government is working together with its social partners to address both the immediate economic challenges and, through far-reaching reforms, place the economy on a new path of inclusive growth and job creation. We have prioritized the task of significantly raising the levels of investment in the economy, since it is essential for growth and job creation. One of the ways in which we can increase job creation is through investment. We need to bring investment into our country. We need to get our local companies to invest in the economy, and by so doing, increase the number of people who are employed. There has been enthusiastic response to the call that we have made by both South African businesses and international investors to our plans to hold an investment summit, which we are going to have on the 25th to the 27th of October. We have also been approached by business leaders across the economy, insisting that they want to play, and they are playing their part, working together with government to grow the economy and to create jobs. They too see that the platform is burning, and instead of throwing their hands up in despair, they are determined to be part of the solution. Rather than stand on the sidelines and make a lot of noise, like the noise I'm hearing from this side, they are saying, we want to be part of the solution. We want to participate and help everyone in our country to create jobs. In the coming days, Cabinet will be announcing details of a stimulus package to reignite growth and to establish the foundation for a sustained economic recovery plan. This package reprioritizes funds towards initiatives that are labor-intensive, addresses infrastructural needs, and boosts local economies. This is the job of governments. Governments, in their management of the economy, have to take certain initiatives, have to take certain steps. But the government is not alone in all this. The government is not a sole player in the economy of the country. The government is a manager and an actor. The other partners in the economic space must also play their part. And we expect political parties to also play their part and bring forward and bring forward proposals that have efficacy and that can lead to real job creation. Government will vigorously implement confidence-building measures to unlock private sector resources so that the private sector can have the ability to invest. We are addressing the chief constraints to greater investment and growth. Government is making progress on addressing key policy and regulatory issues that have been raised with us by the business community. Some of them have said, we want to come and invest in South Africa. One of the things that holds us back is your visa regulations, your visa requirements. And we say, okay, we are going to address our visa requirements so that the skilled individuals should come forward and they should come on the back of the investments that various companies want to make. We are going to finalize the mining charter, and we are also going to be publishing the integrated resource plan in a matter of a short time. We will also be making announcements on the allocation of the broadband spectrum, because that too has been raised as a constraint to investment flowing into our country. The Electronic Communications Amendment Bill and the Single Transport Economic Regulator are also going to be matters that we resolve. We do this because the private sector, who we've been interacting with, have raised this as some of the constraints, and we are going to address these issues so that we can unlock the levers that hold our economy back. We're improving governance across the public sector and have moved with speed to tackle one of the constraints that has been holding our economy back, which is corruption. We're also taking measures to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government at all levels. With many companies contemplating retrenchments, we need to work together as social partners in much the same way as we did in 2008 when the whole world went through a financial crisis, to mitigate the effects of the current economic climate on jobs. And we would say, for those companies that may have plans to retrench workers, we say, hold back. And if you have to, let us find alternative pathways for those workers that may have to lose their jobs. Beyond these measures, we must undertake a fundamental re-engineering of our economy. We are working to build human capabilities through access to high-quality early childhood development. That is a long-term process that we are involved in, but we are going to see benefits flowing out of this. Access to higher education to produce skills that are needed for the future. The youth employment interventions that we are making are also going to improve the employability of young people as we move forward. And we are also reducing barriers of entry for many businesses. And this has been raised by many business people that we've been interacting with. We are doing all this to ensure that there is also stronger competition regulation, the revitalization of our state-owned enterprises, promoting agrarian reform, better spatial planning, improved public transport systems, and development finance and industrial incentives. We are developing the productive base of the economy by enhancing current industrial policy measures. So there are quite a number of things that we are giving attention to. And we are also promoting the growth of labor-intensive sectors like agriculture, services, and tourism. Now, as social partners and as a country, we must respond to the economic difficulties that our country faces right now. And we want to do so with a measure of working together. Yesterday, I had a wonderful meeting with a number of business leaders who out of their own volition, came forward and say, Mr. President, we want to contribute to job creation. And we believe that if we get a number of big businesses, including small business enterprises, and we pull together, we will be able to bring to you a proposal which will lift job creation in our country. Now, that is the type of patriotic voice that we want to hear in our country, where business people come forward and say, we want to make a contribution, rather than sit on the sidelines, continue to make noise, and not put any plan on the table. I want those who have plans to be brought to the table so that we can act and take South Africa forward. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Maimane, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, there's a famous saying that says, you can either make a noise or make a difference. And I tell you what, from that side of the House, sorry.
Order, honorable members. We need to hear the Leader of the Opposition.
Since 2009, I've listened to enough noise about summits, about 9-point plans, yet still today, 9.6 million South Africans are unemployed. Here's my challenge to you, Mr. President. Here's the difference. When we talk about the difference, it's the fact that 75% of all new jobs created in South Africa have been created by DA-led governments. In fact, in Johannesburg alone, in this last quarter, we've seen an increase of about 100,000 new jobs under DA-led government. That's the difference we are talking about. But let me tell you how it works. It works on the basis of building a capable state, eradicating corruption, and actually ensuring that you give policy certainty, which we've done. My question to you, Mr. President, is simply this: that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome, or keeping the same people and hoping for a different outcome. Here is my challenge. In your cabinet, you've kept Mr. Visa debacle himself, Malusi Gigaba. You've kept a confused economic cluster with the same ministers and increased unemployment. I want to know, are you hoping to kickstart the economy and change our trajectory? Are you willing to change the same cabinet ministers who served under Zuma and brought us to this problem? Can we bring change so we can get a new economic trajectory? I thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Quite frankly, thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Maimane. You know, for a moment, I thought that I would hear pearls of wisdom. Just for a moment, just as you stood upright, I said, wow, today I am going to hear something completely different from what I've heard in the past. So I've waited with an open hand for some pearls of wisdom from you, and I have not heard anything wiser that you have said. And I regret to say that all you are saying, you are playing the people or the man, and you are not talking to the substantive issues that have to do with economic growth. Now we are managing the African National Congress. Maybe you didn't listen carefully. The African National Congress has been governing this country from 1994. And from 1994, it has doubled the number of people who are working here in South Africa. And that is what we intend to continue doing. the people of our country continue to invest confidence in the ANC because they see that it is the ANC that has clear policies, that is taking real initiatives to change the trajectory of our country. Where would we be today if the ANC had not changed the trajectory of the South African economy? We would not be here. Where would the 8 million people who today have been employed since 1994 be? They would be unemployed. We are committed to continue creating jobs, and what we are doing is to put in place durable, sustainable building blocks that are going to continue to make our economy grow. Now, maybe next week you may well have better ideas. If you wake up on the right side of the bed, bring them to me, and then we will see if they are implementable. But for now, you have disappointed me. I have not had any better idea from you. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Ngwezi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, one of the main causes of unemployment in this country is the fact that most job opportunities require work experience, and our graduates and South Africans do not have that. Now, in the IFP's March, that was on 1 May, one of its demands was that remove work experience as a prerequisite for job. Can we see you, Mr. President, because you said we must provide you with solutions. Can we see you driving this vehicle of removing work experience issue in order to address unemployment? And the second one, because you said we must provide solutions, the second one that I can come with will be to remove the ANC from power, because you have failed for 22 years now. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, I can help you with the first one. I'm afraid I will not be able to help you with the second one. The ANC is here to stay. I think you better get used to it. Now, in relation to the first point, I'm glad to hear that the IFP Youth League is articulating precisely the same point. And I can say that you will not only see me lead this process, but you'll also hear me lead it. I have spoken about it. The young people in our country have come forward and have said this issue of work experience before they get jobs is actually a huge constraint for them. It is preventing them from getting into job opportunities, and they have proposed that work experience should be removed as a requirement for them to get into job situations. I happen to support that. I agree with it, I support it, and in fact, if many of us think back to where we were, if experience was a requirement for us to get into any job positions, many of us would never have been where we got to in our own work callings or work experiences. So it is a constraint, and the young people are absolutely right, and I support them, and I call on all of us to support them, that we should ensure that young people are given the opportunity to get into work opportunities. They must be given the chance to work. And in fact, if we do so, we will find that young people are usually so clever, so innovative, so brave, so courageous, that they are able to take to any job challenge with alacrity and with a great deal of commitment. And based on that, I think we should not hold back, and companies should not hold back and not be afraid to give young people a chance. And we say, give them an opportunity, let them get into job situations. Yes, sometimes they may make mistakes. We all have made mistakes in one way or another. And there's no one who has not made the mistake either in the job situation or elsewhere. So open the doors of employment places. Let us allow young people to get in because they are the future. And let us give them that opportunity to work, because if we continue to constrain them, we will find that they will become so bottled up, and the frustrations could lead to a whole lot of things that are undesirable. So let's open opportunities for young people to get jobs. And we can do it now. And I call on companies to do precisely that, open opportunities and get young people to work. One of the reasons we embarked on the Youth Employment Service was precisely to respond to this. The Youth Employment Service is really a way in which we can get young people into job situations. It is not so much to form a constraint for young people to be able to get into jobs. And we say, in fact, that 1 million job opportunities that we've agreed to have should be increased, maybe even to 2 million. Young people need jobs and they need them now. We must open up those opportunities. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Nchaisa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, given the fact that large sums of monies are allocated to projects for the purpose of benefiting the people that are not employed. However, these monies are never used for the purpose for which they were meant. What is the other turnaround strategy that can be brought about to bring an end to these corrupt activities if these projects are to be continued? Or perhaps now just to bring about forensic investigations into all these projects now that have been allocated monies. Thank you, Mr. President.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much. We are aware that there have been situations where monies that have been allocated for various projects, some of which have been meant to either create jobs or to ensure that there's service delivery to our people, have not been used for the purpose for which money was allocated. And money has been siphoned out, money has been defrauded, money has been taken and used for other purposes. Now, the experience that we are going through as a government in, if you like, a pilot type of situation, particularly in the Northwest, is giving us quite a lot of information of how this manifests itself. And we are becoming more and more aware of how we can tighten up our processes to make sure that when money is allocated, it is used precisely for the projects it is allocated for. We are developing processes, we are developing systems in our various interventions to make sure that money is not stolen. Now, we are shining a light of this corruption network that may well have been formed in a number of places, and we are going to make sure that we curb wastage, we curb corruption, and in this we are also assisted by the Auditor General, who, as we heard, released his report and bemoaned the fact that processes are neglected in a number of places. So therefore, we are now very alert. We have become extremely alert and are making all our officials to make sure that we do comply with the PFMA, the various management systems that we have. And we also call upon the private sector, because it is not only people who are in government who are complicit in this. It is how the private sector actors try to capture the state at various levels. Quite often it is people who are in the private sector who set up these various systems to try and defraud money from the public sector. So we become very aware of all those, and we are going to make sure that we stop them. It will take time, but we are going to work on an ongoing basis that we clean up government, that money that has been budgeted finally does go to work for the purpose it was allocated. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Shivambu.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. President, you can't claim the victory of the ANC on the fact that there's 8 million jobs more from 1994 to now. The population grew.
Of course.
It's obvious in terms of what happens. So yes. The jobs happen because the population size has increased. Yes. So the jobs that you can claim are the ones that you have created, are not the ones that, in terms of basic economic counting, it's not correct to just claim the jobs because the population grew. By possibly more than, by close to 20 million people. But one thing that I want to understand is that in the period where you were globetrotting, looking for the 1 trillion of investments, we lost 100,000 jobs.
Yes.
What is the philosophical underpinning of your economic solutions, permanent solutions to South Africa? Do you somehow believe that you are going to look for money from outside to come into the continent, and then that will become a panacea for all our developmental challenges? Because it has never happened anyway where you go and get foreign direct investments, whatever quantity of that FDI is, you will not be able to deal with the job challenge unless if there's an inward-looking, proper industrialization program that happened in South Korea and Japan and the areas that are called Southeast Asia. Thank you very much.
The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Shibambo, I don't even need to answer you because you are talking to my book. Because what we have said is that, in order for an economy to grow and in order for jobs to be created, you do need investment. But we have taken care to say that we are focusing on local corporates investing in our economy. And this goes without saying that if you really want to drive economic growth, you must make sure that the companies within your own country demonstrate confidence in their own economy and invest here. Now, we've got a number of companies in our country that have already demonstrated that they've got clear plans of investing in our economy in the next 5 years. And they are the companies who are also going to come to our investment conference. And it is all based on industrialization of our economy, boosting manufacturing, making sure that we inject more life and activity in our agricultural sector. Our energy sector has a lot to contribute in this regard, but so does our biodiversity economic setup also contribute. Tourism is a great creator of jobs. So we've got a multiplicity of sectors in our economy that can create jobs. And we want to make sure that we crowd in the private sector in our country first, to invest in our country. And thereafter, the bonus, of course, is when you get foreign direct investment. The reason the United States is booming right now, it's booming because local companies are investing. They are reviving quite a number of companies there, but they are also getting quite a lot of foreign direct investment. Now, we can look at foreign direct investment with suspicion, but we are not looking only at foreign direct investment. In fact, we're looking mainly at local investments. And that is why, just as of yesterday, where we received a number of business leaders in our country who came to say, we want to invest in our country. And there are quite a number of things that we've got to work with you, Mr. President, to put right. The regulatory environment and this and that. And if we can get all that right, the money that is currently on the balance sheets of our companies in the banks can be unlocked and can create jobs. So what do we want to do? Yes, we want to industrialize. Honorable Shibambu, we know how our country started deindustrializing over a number of years. Now, this government wants to reboot the industrialization process in our country. We want to make sure that manufacturing functions, and we want at the same time to promote black industrialists. We want to promote small and medium enterprises. In other countries, small and medium enterprises account for up to 70 or 80%, particularly in countries like Germany. 80% of employment is carried by small and medium enterprises. That's precisely what we also want to focus on. So we are at work. Our economic focus is to make sure that we reboot the various subsectors of our economy and make sure that there is investment, and then jobs will then start flowing. I agree with you, yes, the population of our country has grown, but we cannot run away from the fact that we were a much smaller economy in 1994, and our economy has grown, and it has grown under the management of this governing party called the African National Congress. I know that many people want to wish that away. You cannot, unfortunately, wish it away. It is here, and it is here to stay, because we are going to make sure that we continue to grow the economy of our country and get rid of all the challenges that we have. So if you like, Honorable Shibambu, you can wish us luck, because we are here to stay. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, question number 15 has been asked by the Honorable A.F. Mahlalela. The President.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, the Brics Partnership, and we held a Brics Summit just a few weeks ago, offers South Africa significant opportunities to expand as well as to diversify our trade, to attract investment, and to develop our own economic infrastructure. With a combined GDP of approximately $15 trillion, BRICS countries account for around 20% of gross global product, over 40% of the world population, and have collectively contributed more than half of world economic growth during the past 10 years. Trade between South Africa and the BRICS partners has grown from $28 billion to $35 billion over the last decade. Combined, the BRICS countries account for 15% of South Africa's export and 25% rather of South Africa's imports. Against the backdrop of unilateral measures taken by some developed countries to protect their domestic industries, BRICS countries are forging ahead with initiatives to expand intra-BRICS trade and investment. One such initiative is the China International Import-Export Expo, which will be held in Shanghai in November of 2018, which South Africa will use to quite good effect to expand the basket of products to export to China. The BRICS countries have reaffirmed their commitment to work together to shape a multilateral trading system that supports industrialization and economic diversification. The BRICS countries constitute an important global voice in support of a rules-based and transparent, as well as inclusive multilateral system that promotes a predictable trade environment and the centrality of the World Trade Organization. These countries are in agreement that development must remain integral to the WTO's work, and that developing countries should secure a share in the growth of world trade, that matches their needs as well as their economic development. They support provisions for special and differential treatment, including in agriculture as well. This provides the necessary policy space for developing countries to pursue their development objectives, including industrialization, once again, Honorable Shibambu, to promote their effective integration into the global economy. Individual BRICS countries are important and influential globally in their own name and right. But it is when these countries stand together in the alliance formed through BRICS that we are in a better position to advance fairer global trade agenda. And this is where South Africa is rather fortunate, that we are part of this network of these huge countries, China, India, Brazil, Russia, where we are, yes, the smallest, but we are also an influential bloc in the BRICS makeup of networked countries. And through this, we're able to make contributions that have also an impact on what happens in the world. And in this regard, we're focusing together with these countries on the areas of economic development that matter and count. Industrialization, boosting manufacturing, and ensuring that when we trade amongst ourselves, for starters, but when we do trade with other countries, we trade with them from a position of strength as well. So we are fortunate to be part of this club, and we are also a respected member of this club, because this provides us the necessary policy space to be able to pursue our own developmental objectives, and we are able to have our voice heard. And in this regard, South Africa has become a respected, more respected country because of the company that we keep. The BRICS network gives us that weight of influence and that weight of being able to speak. And when we do speak, we are respected and we are listened to. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Mahlalela.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Well, angithathe lethuba ngibonga kumongameli ngale mpendulo sakanikete tona. Honorable President, BRICS seeks to project stability and predictability in a rules-based, which is fundamental, and in contrast to the recent US policies vis-a-vis your global rules and norms. To what extent is or will South Africa's membership of BRICS, since we became members 7 years ago, will contribute or is contributing towards a prosperous Africa, which is based on inclusive growth and sustainable development within the context and/or framework of Agenda 2063, with particular focus on agenda for social and economic development. Are there any projects and programs that we can proudly say, since being member of BRICS, we've begun a process of benefiting, and we can see them practical on the ground, both locally and in the continent as Africa? Thank you very much.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you very much. We were able during the last BRICS summit to extend an invitation to a number of African countries, particularly countries in our own region in SADC. They were joined by countries that we usually have as part of the BRICS outreach from as far afield as the Caribbean and Northern Africa, as well as West Africa. So we were proud that the countries in SADC were able to honor us by coming to the BRICS Summit to be part of this collection of countries that participated. That went to confirm our own policy in terms of our own foreign policy, that we seek to advance the interests of our continent. And in fact, as we are part of BRICS, we see ourselves as being there on behalf of the various countries on our continent. What we seek to do is to also advance the interests of those countries. Now, what we have been able to propose and indeed have adopted is where we propose that we should have a development bank, and that development bank has now been set up. Its headquarters is in Shanghai, but it has a chapter or a branch here in Africa, in South Africa, and it is a development bank that is now extending various loans to various countries on the continent, particularly focus on infrastructure. Our country is also privileged to have received two types of loans that are going to assist some of our companies and state-owned enterprises as well. But recently, we were also able to get the BRICS Summit to agree that we should set up a vaccine center that is going to do quite a lot of research on various diseases and various vaccines. And this center is going to be based in South Africa, and it is going to be of service to various countries in BRICS, but it is also going to service the African continent. Now, that fills us with a great deal of pride that the BRICS countries have been able to agree to our proposal to set up a vaccine center right here. And it is going to be one of the really outstanding vaccine centers in the world. And that is going to be in South Africa. And there are quite a number of other benefits. For instance, we are even going to have BRICS games so that the BRICS concept should be embraced and owned by the people in the various BRICS countries. So we are going to have, for instance, variety of games that are going to be hosted by the various BRICS countries. And those who see games as being processes through which we can build cohesion and we can build our nations and get our people to interact will see a great deal of benefit in all this. So that's what we are going to have. So BRICS is really alive. BRICS is not just a talk shop. It's not just a place where we get together, we talk, and then we move on. In fact, once we have met, we've got a number of officials and ministers who continue to work until the next BRICS Summit. And this coming week, we will be going to another version of BRICS. We will be going to FOCAC, which is how when African countries get together and also have a lot of deliberations amongst themselves as well as with China. So we will be traveling to that, and that too yields a lot of benefits for our country and indeed for our continent. So we are proud members of BRICS, and this we do because we see a great deal of benefit. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You speak about the BRICS Bank, and I was just wondering whether your decision to appoint Minister Nene back was to rescind the announcement that is going to the BRICS Bank. But Honorable Mr. President, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And China is going to be investing so-called 14.7 billion rands into South Africa, has given Eskom 2.5 billion rands loan for the Insulate project. These aren't blank checks, Mr. President. And what is quite evident is that Tuma Mina has become Tuma China. And so, Mr. President, what are we doing to insulate and protect South Africa from the global expansion of China? Because whilst we may take their money, it's good that we protect ourselves. And I'll tell you why. Professor Lumgile Mondi of Wits says, and I quote, "Our membership in BRICS may seem as though we are complacent about China's behavior on the continent. It has not created any number of jobs, but instead it has brought a ship full of Chinese workers and built poor infrastructure." So do these investments actually translate into jobs? Or is it China easing off its own burdens back at home, and because they've got the financial muscle, we have become a soft target? It could be, Mr. President, our participation in BRICS is us as South Africa punching way above our weight. So I put it to you, Mr. President, what is it that you are doing from protecting South Africa's interests from Chinese global expansion? Because it cannot be that we are going to be the gateway to Africa and therefore be the gateway to the exploitation of this continent as China tries to become the new world power. Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Honorable Hlengwa, thank you very much. I can tell you that I'm not as cynical and as skeptical as you are. But at the same time, we always act to promote South Africa's interests. First and foremost, the interests of our country count most, and that's what we seek to protect. When we meet and enter into any negotiations, it's for nothing else but to protect our national interests. And when we deal with various countries, and it's not only China, it could be any country in the world, we do so making sure that we do watch the I and the T, cross the T and dot the I as carefully as possible. And this we also do on our own continent. When we entered into the Africa Free Trade Agreement, we made sure that we look at everything very closely because that's what counts most. Because we don't want to either mortgage our country or our future or sell our country or our future. So you can be sure that that's what we seek to do. Now, China, in our dealings with them, have not displayed any imperialist tendencies or intentions. We have not seen such, and if we had seen them, because we've got the experience of how imperialists have plundered not only our country but other countries, so we are wide awake, and we can see exactly when an imperialist comes, we see them from very, very far. Now, what we do, we've developed a very good and canny approach when we do this. Yes, we do welcome people who have money. We want to use their money so that we can advance our own interests. Recently, when President Xi Jinping was here, he and I were able virtually to open the first Chinese motor building company in the Eastern Cape. And it is now going to start rolling out cars. And who is employed there? It's South African workers. It's not Chinese workers. Yes, they do have officials and key people there, but it is a multi-billion rand investment opportunity that has come our way. Should we have... Now, if we were skeptics, should we have pushed it away and said, no, we don't want it? We don't work like that. We say, if you have money and we want to attract you to South Africa, but we are going to be on guard to advance our interests at all times and at all costs. So be rest assured that that's what we do. Next time, maybe when we have such occasions, I will ask you to be a fly on the wall so that you can see how this side of the room operates. It operates to advance our interests. Ngizakubiza mfowethu ukuthi uze uzohlala nathi ubone ukuthi siqhubha kanjani ngoba siyaqhubha thina. Ngiyabonga.
The Honorable Carter.
Thank you, Speaker and President, almost a Deputy President. Inclusive growth and shared prosperity implies that Africa and South Africa's relationship with BRICS and China in particular should not be a case of a winner takes it all. Now, ironically, we have a trade surplus with the United States, but when it comes to China and South Africa, our trade deficit has become progressively worse, which correlates with the dissemination of our manufacturing and textile sector. Now, in essence, all China wants is our raw minerals, our iron, our steel, and precious metals, and little else, and in return, we get dumped with cheap textiles. I want to remind us all of being wide awake when we warned that our cotton industry is going to be destroyed in this country because of cheap imports, and that is exactly what happened. 79,000 downstream jobs were lost in the Makatini flats. So, Honourable President, the question is, what is government going to do to protect South African industries, our jobs and manufacturers in this country from cheap imports, and to ensure fair and equitable trade as well? Thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Honourable Carter, I can assure you that this concept of win-win is a concept that occupies our thinking most of the time, if not all the time. In our discussions with China, and indeed with President Xi Jinping, we look at precisely the imbalance between our trade activities. They have a surplus over us, we have a deficit. It is a matter of concern to them as well. And it is precisely the issue that we address. When I go, like recently I went to Zambia. I met President Lungu. We looked at our trade figures and we realized that we have a surplus. They have a deficit. And it is a matter of concern to both of us, because we want a win-win type of solution to our trade relations. The one country must not win all the time over and above the other. And next week we are going to have another head of government coming here to our shores. They happen to have a deficit in relation to us, and that is one of the things that they want to discuss with us. And it happens to be a country in the Northern Hemisphere. So we always want to look for win-win solutions. Now, China is very much alive to the fact that they have a surplus over and above us, and they have said, and we agree with them, what is it that we can buy from you as South Africa so that we can reduce the surplus that we have over and above you? And that's precisely what we are also going to be addressing when we go to China in a few days' time, to address this issue, to reduce the deficit that we have in relation to them. So our trade relations are not trade relations that we approach from a one-way type of street basis. We want to have trade relations where we reduce deficits and where we bring about a balance, and where it gets out of balance, we try and seek a win-win type of solution. So we are very aware of our deficit in trade with China, and we are seeking ways to reduce that deficit. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Maimane.
Mr. President, in the recent BRICS summit, your government announced the fact that Eskom had secured a loan, and equally so, that same loan was extended to Transnet. I want to read to you what the New York Times describes as loans from China. It describes it as a debt trap for vulnerable countries around the world. It fuels corruption, autocratic behavior in struggling democracies. Now, Mr. President, my challenge is this, is that the Chinese government are not just bless us, they are not giving us money. Babang kibo mashonisa. And in truth, if we look at what happened to Sri Lanka, they had to hand over their port and hand over 15,000 hectares of land when they could not pay. Now, unlike your predecessor, Mr. President, ke a go tshepa, because your predecessor never veiled all trade deals, all these loans, in secrecy. Could you bring this House into your confidence and the people of South Africa as to what are the terms and conditions of this Chinese loan to South Africa? And can we be assured that our country is not being sold to Bomashonis?
Yeah.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable, Honorable Maimani, you know, what we manage as a government is a number of state-owned enterprises, and many of these state-owned enterprises have gone out to the world to seek loans. Some have gone to the African Development Bank, some have gone to the World Bank, some have gone to the Development Bank of Southern Africa, some have gone to the local banks. So our state-owned enterprises go around the world and in the country as well. And the majority of these loans are locally sought in our local banks, and they get these loans and so that they can continue operating, so that they can continue delivering electricity to you in your home, Honorable Maimani. And the terms, you know, if I were to give you the terms of the loans that ESCOM got from the African Development Bank, the World Bank, the DBSA, and so forth, then then it basically means for every little loan we must now bring here to you. We are here to manage. We are here to manage that economy, this economy, and we are not doing anything under secrecy. The fact that these loans are announced, the fact that we go and say ESCOM has been given a loan, and we know they have a loan from the World Bank, we know they have a loan from the African Development Bank, means that we are just as transparent as you can get. And so there is just no duty on our part to be able to say, well, it's my money. Re kreile loan ya 1,000 rand, re kopa gore o tlo sheba agreement eo. No, re ka se etse ntho eo. No, a re sebetse bjalo. Ka nnete, a se sephiri, a gona sephiri ho hang. Wa itse dintho tsena ha re di sebetsa. Hobaneng o sa nkopa gore ke tlise o nkutle gantle mogaetso. O nkutle sentle. Hobaneng o sa re tlisa loan agreement ya African Development Bank? No, hobaneng o sa re ke tlise agreement e re na leng yona le Standard Bank? Hobaneng o sa re ke tlise loan ya DBSA? Nya, mogaetso awa, ai sebetse bjalo. Mo ke a gana ka nnete. Ke a gana tota. Ke gana tota mo. O tla ntshwarela. O tla ntshwarela ka bane ma gompieno nka sie ho Helen Zille. Ke re Helen Zille ke kopa gore o mphe agreement ya loan o e kreileng mo bankeng e itseng. Awa no ne ke a gana. So ke kopa gore o re tshepe. Aiwa o ile wa re wa ntshepa. Re tshepe re tswelle pele. Mare le a go le bjalo, rona a gona se re se tshabang. A gona se re se tshabang ditumelano tse kaofela tsona di pepeneneng. Ditumelano tse a re di etse ka lekunutu, a re di etse mo lehihing, a re di etse ka mo tlasa tafole, re di etsa mo tafoleng gore o molomong a iponele a tswelle pele. So mo teng ke kopa gore o re tshepe re tswelle pele. What we can assure you, Honorable Maimane, is that all the agreements that our government enters into are agreements that are based on ethics. They are agreements that are based on good corporate governance. They are agreements that are meant to advance the interests of our people. That's all I can tell you, and take it from me, that is the reality. Thank you very much.
We now come to question number 16, asked by the Honorable D.H. Khosa.
Speaker, just before the President responds to the question, Mama, isahamba njani lento izinto? We press and press and press. President usindile apha because the problem is broader than just China when it comes to trade. Ihamba njani lento sicofa okokoko okanye UDM neyancintsha kuba siya kwi-elections? Yini mama? Usindile mongameli, uhlala usinda. Next time sakulinda.
Nanga amagama apha phambi kwam. Honorable President, please respond to the question of Honorable Khosa.
Nisinde kanjani? Ngizakufumana nami. Honorable members, underlying all the tax proposals that government has made since 1994 is the need to promote the growth of an inclusive economy, to redistribute resources, to meet the needs of the poor, and to ensure sustainable management of public finances. It was these considerations that informed government's decision to increase VAT by 1% from the 1st of April 2018. Based on all the available evidence, it emerged as the one revenue-raising measure and source that would have the least negative impact on economic growth, which is essential for job creation and the reduction of poverty. However, as we implement the VAT increase, it is essential that this does not place an undue burden on poor people in our country. Government therefore set up an independent panel of experts to review the current list of zero-rated VAT items. The panel's report was submitted to the Minister of Finance on the 6th of August and subsequently released for public comment. The report recommends the following additional items that should be included in the basket of zero-rated goods: white bread, bread flour, and cake flour, sanitary pads, or products rather, sanitary products, school uniforms, nappies, including cloth and adult nappies. The panel recommended that Treasury conducts further work on each of the proposed additional items to ensure that there is no room created for VAT fraud by producers or retailers, and that the benefit of zero rating on these items indeed goes to the consumers. It should, for instance, be ensured that a price of a zero-rated product is reduced from what it was with VAT included. The process of public consultation will assist in evaluating the recommendations further to ascertain if they have the potential to significantly benefit poor households. The report also highlights some programs on the expenditure side that would assist poor households, such as strengthening the National School Nutrition Program and increasing the Child Support Grant and Old Age Pension Grants. Taking the recommendations to the public for comments, as well as the evaluation of the recommendations by the National Treasury and the South African Revenue Service, the Minister of Finance will then determine which of the panel's recommendations to implement by including them in current or future tax legislation for consideration by Parliament. I thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Khoza. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable President, Bari Changani Kurangela, I would jama konzo, Gambe, I would tira, I would karata, I would imisela. Switi komba swinene leswaku loko mi hlangane na xirhalanganyi xo engetela VAT mi ti karhatile ku kondza mi kuma nhlamulo ya kona. In these few words, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I'm trying to thank the Honorable President for the comprehensive response to my question. However, there is still no more that I want to know from the Honorable President. Honorable President, one of your tasks is to ensure that you ease the burden of tax to the people that you are leading. Samuranga Panda. Then, Honorable President, to what extent are communities out there being educated to ensure that they are not abused by shop owners when getting into the till? Because this is very important. And to further know from you, Honorable President, as to when the government is envisaged to implement the zero-rated VAT-listed items, since as we are talking today here, there are people that we are leading outside there that we are trying to assist as we are speaking, that are already being affected by these things. I thank you.
Comrade President.
Na khensa leswi swa VAT hi lava ku ri vanhu va hina va swi twisisa kahle ku ri loko va ya emavhengeleni va kota ku tiva kahle ku ri I swi leswi va lavaka ku swi xava leswi nga kota ku ri swi wela ka zero-rated VAT products. So ita endla ku ri ku va na ndlela leyi nga ta kota ku yi kuma ku ri I va tivisa kahle va dyondzisiwa kahle. Mi te na proposal ya kahle swinene. Hi ta fanele ku ri lava treasury hi va kombela ku ri va endla ndlela leyi nga ta tivisa kambe ku dyondza vanhu va hina hi yona. So ita swi languta swaleswo nda kombela Minister wa Finance ku ri a swi languta kahle hi ku swa laveka ku ri vanhu va hina va swi tiva ku ri loko va ya mavhengeleni va nga robiwi hi vanhu lava va xavisaka swilo. Now, when it comes to when this will commence, the Minister of Finance is obviously going to receive all the proposals because he has requested public comment, and once the public comments have been fully processed, he will come to Cabinet and outline precisely a proposal that he would like to put forward. Cabinet will discuss the matter, and then we will then be able to determine when this should commence. And we say this because we are very much alive to the fact that the majority of our people are really going through hardships in this regard. And the reason the minister appointed this task team to look at what we can do in terms of identifying products that should be zero-rated was precisely to respond to the hardships that our people are going through. So we are working on it, and we should be able to have this concluded, and the minister will come to Cabinet with a clear proposal. But nonetheless, thank you very much for raising the issue of how we can spread more information to our people about those items that will be zero-rated, so that as they go to various shops, they should know precisely what is zero-rated. So some public education is going to be necessary, and I thank you for raising the matter. Thank you.
Honorable Khoza, Rule 142 requires that a supplementary question be one. Honorable Singh, I now call on you. I know you won't follow him.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your response. Notwithstanding the fact that there are 19 VAT-free items and a few more are considered in the basket, do you not think, Honorable President, that there are other commodities which have a knock-on effect on the poor, like the fuel levies, like VAT on electricity, like VAT on water, which are basic commodities? Do you not think that those should also be considered for zero rating when the Ministry of Finance looks at these items? Because these are necessary items that every single person in our country uses on a daily basis: water, electricity, and fuel, and taking taxis and other public transport. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker, clearly, I mean, these matters should come out in the public comments that the Minister has asked for. And if there are proposals in that regard, they will have to be assessed properly and measured up in terms of our tax architecture, because that's a revenue issue for government. So that, because it is through this that we're then able to have the resources that we have to make sure that the country functions, service delivery, there are social grants. So we need to keep that in mind so that we also do not erode our tax collection process as well. But nonetheless, this is a proposal that is being put forward, and we will see how it works with the various comments that are going to come from our people. But thank you very much for that as well.
Honorable Maimane.
Mr. President, I just want to remind you that your government voted against the amendments we made to adjust this VAT rate. But I want to raise with you, Mr. President, that the fuel levy now stands at R5.30 per litre, which means anyone filling up 50 litres is spending 265 rands. This also adds to the cost of paraffin. Our people are struggling. And what I'd like to say is that, in all fairness, this is corruption tax. Because when you look at the road accident fund, it is declaring losses and money has just been wasted. I want to ask you, Mr. President, you task your cabinet to say, let them present a plan as to how they're going to mitigate against this thing. And Minister Khatebe came here yesterday, was unable to produce a plan. You said on the 14th of, or on the 6th of July, they still have not done anything, and it's 38 days later. Mr. President, I want to ask you, while you are here, is there in fact a plan to reduce the fuel levy, or is there not one? Or is there an accountable plan so that we can tell the people at home what there's hope for them? Because at this point in time, your ministers cannot produce a plan. So I'd like to know if there is in fact one, and can we hold you accountable to one?
Your time.
Honorable Speaker, the issue of the fuel is really a function. The fuel levy is a function, or let me start off with the fuel. The fuel is a function of what happens in the world in terms of the prices of the dollar and oil. And there was a moment when we thought that we would suddenly have a decline, yes, that would lead us to having the price coming down, but that did not happen, and it happened as a result of what happens globally. Now, the fuel levy is part of the fiscal architecture that we've got in our country, and it is regulated as part of what the Minister of Finance has to deal with. And we have said that we want to look at all that, and it is it is part of the whole process that we're looking at. We've now looked at the VAT issue, and that one has been able to yield some relief for our people as we go forward. The fuel one is precisely one of those that we're looking at, and we are very sensitive to the burden that has been imposed on our people. And in doing so, we have to measure up a number of things. And in the end, the solutions have to be measured up with what happens if we just reduce the fuel levy, and at the same time, what happens if we lose that revenue, and it has an impact on a whole range of other things. So, truth be told, Mr. Maimani, it is a difficult one. It is one of those things that we as government have to deal with. It is not as easy as just snapping a finger and we come up with an answer. All I can say to you, and indeed to the rest of our people, it is one of those issues that we continue to look at and seek solutions for. So we are in a difficult situation because we import a commodity whose price we have no control of, and we have based our tax architecture on that as well. So as we try to do a balance, we have to look at a whole range of things. That's as best as we can put it to you, Honorable Maimani, and to the rest of our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Mhlonishwa Mongameli, iqiniso lithi abantu banyenyekile ngempela bakhathazekile ngonyuka kweVAT kanye nopetrol. Ukuba bekuya ngabo ngabe bathola usizo ngokusheshsha. Kodwa bengifuna ukuthola ukuthi whether this panel of experts has looked broadly ukubheka ukuthi iziphi ezinye indlela that can assist so that people are not pressed as they are. I'm saying this, Honorable President, because in our own space at the moment, we have Olonmin Oti will shed 3,000 jobs. Then in 2 years, they say they will shed 12,600 jobs. Sibeno implants Oti na uzo dilizabantu about 13,000. Yonke lento lababan mabengasebenzi, they will end up suffering even more. I want to say, what is it that you can say in light of all these jobs are shed and we have this problem in front of us? Thank you, Mungameli.
President.
Ngiyabonga Mhlonishwa. Into ekhona ukuthi le committee le yabekwa uMinister iye yabhekisisa izinto ezidingana. Kodwa ke iye yathi mayiqeda ukuphenya uMinister wase uthi uzafuna ukuthi le report yabo must go for public comment. So kuyanyanzela ke ukuthi abantu umphakathi ube nendlela yokuthi babeke amazwi abanawo, ama comments noma ama suggestions, and that's what we are waiting for. The Minister has, in my view, done the correct thing of releasing the report for public comment, and we expect our people, through their various formations, even individually, to come forward and make comments. And based on that, as I said earlier, the Minister will be able to make and assess those comments and then bring them to Cabinet, and then we will take things forward. This we do because we're very much alive to the hardships that our people are going through right now. It is a very difficult economic situation that our people are facing, and our country is going through as well. And we are seeking ways and means in which we as government can respond to ease the burden that our people are going through. So we're waiting for those comments. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you. We now move to question 17 asked by the Leader of the Opposition. to the President.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, on the 31st of July, in my capacity as the President of the African National Congress, I announced that the ANC would propose an amendment to the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa that could provide greater clarity on the circumstances under which expropriation without compensation can be effected. The proposal is informed, among other things, by the views of our people that have been expressed in the public hearings that have been taking place, and also by members of the African National Congress. It is based on an understanding that the Constitution, as it currently stands, does allow for expropriation without compensation in certain circumstances. The proposal is intended to make explicit what is currently implicit in the Constitution. This announcement does not undermine, nor does it preempt the outcome of the public consultation process that is currently underway. Much like the pronouncements of other political parties, including pronouncements by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, this position will guide the contribution of its members in the parliamentary process. Once Parliament has adopted a position on this matter, it will become government's responsibility to implement. As I indicated during the 2018 State of the Nation address, government is determined that land reform should be implemented in a way that increases agricultural production, improves food security, and ensures that the land is returned to those from whom it was taken under colonialism and apartheid. I have appointed an interministerial committee on land reform led by the Deputy President, which has been tasked with coordinating measures to accelerate the redistribution of land, the extension of security, of tenure, the provision of agricultural support, and the redress of spatial inequality. In essence, when we look at our Constitution, we see a document and an instrument that is transformational in nature and that is also empowering in its content. And this process that we have started should take place within a broad and comprehensive land redistribution and agricultural development program. The acceleration of land redistribution is necessary not only to redress a grave historical injustice, but also to bring more producers into the agricultural sector and to make more land available for cultivation. In dealing with just and equitable compensation in the case of expropriation, for example, Section 25 calls for an equitable balance between the public interests and those affected. It lists amongst the relevant circumstances that need to be considered in deciding on such a balance, such things as the history of acquisition of the property, its current use, and the extent of direct state investment in the property. The late Andre van der Walt, one of South Africa's leading constitutional scholars, has argued that Section 25(3) makes non-compensation permissible in appropriate circumstances. Furthermore, Section 25(8) of the Property Clause in our Constitution explicitly states, no provision of this section may impede the state from taking legislative and other measures to achieve land, water, and related reform in order to redress the results of past racial discrimination. The intention of the proposed amendment, in the end, let it be understood, is to strengthen the property rights of all South Africans and to reinforce the transformative nature of our Constitution. It gives greater force to the requirement in the Bill of Rights which says the state must take reasonable legislative and measures within its available resources to foster conditions that enable citizens to gain access to land on an equitable basis. It will provide certainty to those who own land, to those who need land, and to those who are considering investing in our community. Many people on hearing the proposal that was made said, we are grateful that at last we can now have certainty of how this whole debate on land is going to play out. Many people have said being involved in this debate without greater clarity of where it will end has been debilitating. We now know what the outcome could well be. Now, this debate has unleashed what I would call a wonderful process in our country where many people, writers, commentators, ordinary people, politicians, business people, and you name them, have had the opportunity for the first time in a very long time to engage in a meaningful debate on an issue that affects many people in our country. The question of land, as I've said before, is not going to go away. The question of land was an issue when the ANC was formed in 1912, and it has stayed with us since 1912, and we can thank the young people in our country. The ANC Youth League were the first to really advocate for this issue of land, and today we are debating the issue, and we are having meaningful debates. And these debates, in the end, must be underpinned by a number of considerations. The first consideration must be we must transform our land or property ownership in our country. That goes without saying. We've got to do it. We've got to embrace this process that is underway. The second issue is that we must develop. It must be underpinned by development. We must, as we embrace it, ensure that it's going to lead to increased agricultural production and it is going to inject growth in our economy. And the third one is that we must do it in a way as to enhance stability in our country. So those three issues are key as we proceed with this. But I'd like to say that those who have been terrified and afraid should now know that this matter is beginning to sink in the minds and the consciousness of South Africans. Yesterday, I had occasion yesterday to meet the leadership of Agri-SA, and I was pleasantly surprised to hear them say, we acknowledge that colonialism was really bad for land ownership in our country. Apartheid was really terrible for land ownership in our country. And the 1913 Land Act was a really bad intervention in our country. And they say, we want to correct the injustices of the past. We'd like to work with you to find ways in which we can correct the injustices of the past, meaning that they have embraced the fact that we now have to move forward with the land question. They have embraced the fact that, yes, there is going to be change in the way that land is owned in our country. So those who would have wanted to resist are now coming to terms with the fact that we've got to change. And change we are going to, because our people want the wound that was inflicted on them to be healed. And the only way we can heal this wound is to transform our land ownership. And that is going to ensure that we have stability in our country, that we can move forward with greater stability in our economy, and we can move forward with our nation-building processes. So, fellow South Africans, that is where we have to go. We should no longer be afraid of this process of having to change the land ownership architecture in our country. It is here, and it is here to stay. It is going to happen. Thank you very much.
Honorable Malema. Malema.
Sorry, Ntate.
Oh, sorry.
Sidiri.
Go ahead, Ntate.
Thank you, Ntate. Mr. President, I think you and I agree with you that land ownership patterns in this country must change. That's a good thing. And I want to thank the authors of our Constitution who foresaw Venezuela, who foresaw that, and put Section 25 into the Constitution. It is those South Africans who did a duty, and that's our position. And President Motlanthe is absolutely correct when he says, actually, the reason why there's a problem with land reform is the fact that there's corruption, there's an incapable state, and there's a lack of political will to achieve what the ambitions of the Constitution are. Now, you said to me, I must give you suggestions. Here is one. Your government already owns Wingfield, Youngsfield, and Kulenburg here in Cape Town. This discussion is about urban land ownership. If you are seriously committed to this process, within the current Constitution, no need for change, you would release this land as we've asked you since 2006. You will hand over these pieces of land so that we can ensure that South Africans who want to live closer to the city can get housing so that they can get to places of work. Can I ask you, will you commit, will you commit in this House to release these large pieces of land so that we can build hundreds of thousands of houses closer to the city for South Africans who have been left behind, which are already in your hands within the Constitution, so we can give title to South Africans who are left out? Thank you very much.
President.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Maimani is saying we should release the land, and I informed him that the government Lekgotla, the cabinet Lekgotla, decided that we should immediately embark on a rapid release of land. And we are not worried about releasing land. Clearly, I'm not au fait with the pieces of land that he's talking about, and would like to examine that, because the process that is now going to have to take place is that we obviously are going to be categorizing pieces of land throughout the country. That is what we are going to do. And as we do that, the one thing that is going to be driving what we have to do is how best we can advance the interests of our people. That is the most important thing. And I'm glad that in the end, Honorable Maimani is recognizing that the issue of giving land to our people now has to move ahead. It has to happen. And as it happens, we are going to make sure that it is properly managed, it is properly directed, and so that we can improve the lives of our people. This historical injustice must be brought to an end. And I'm glad that you join us in making sure that this can happen. Thank you very much, Mr. Maimane.
Yes, no, Honorable Malima.
Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker and President. What is more comforting is that when people talk about the people who wrote the Constitution, as if those people are dead, forgetting that they are talking to one of them, and who knows that it can be amended, that Constitution. When he wrote it, included in that Constitution, an amendment of the same Constitution. But if you came late to politics, you may not know that you are talking to a person who wrote the Constitution. and you talk to him in past tense as if he's no longer there. Now, President, mine is slightly different. In the EFF, we believe that the state must own the land, the whole land, including Holt Bay and Camps Bay, must be owned by the state. Because this thing of title deeds,
Honorable
President,
Malema, your time. Please ask your question.
This thing of title deeds, Mr. President, it's a setup. They want you to give our people title deeds, knowing very well that our people are poor. They will sell the land back to them. And the narrative that they stole the land will go away. Do you agree that the state must be the owner of the land?
Mr. President.
No, Honorable Maimane, I think you and I agree that land must be given to our people. And that's what you and I agree on. And I know that one of the things that's driving you to say that the state must own all the land is this fear that you have that our people will be driven to start selling the land. And that is precisely one of the things that many people said, that, you know, you give black people title deeds, they will soon sell the land or the houses, and they will remain poor. That is a false fear, I'm afraid, because our people who have had title deeds and who are currently being given title deeds become so proud that finally, in the end, they own something that they can show and demonstrate with their hands. So, Honorable Maimane, I think we should not rob.
Orders, Deputy Speaker. Yes, Honorable Member.
You are calling me with the wrong names, man.
You can't all speak.
No, unsarelo. Ow. Nga etsa mistake e kgolo-kgolo ke compare CIC le Ntate Maimane awa. So I think we should not rob our people from this deep yearning and quest to want to own their pieces of land. Right now, Honorable Malema, right now we're going through a particular process in our country because with the recent land reform process that we embarked on, our rural development department started buying a number of pieces of land and then leasing them out to our people and say, you can take it on lease. Now, the experience that we've got is that many of those people are finding sometimes it difficult to get loans because the banks say, you don't own this piece of land. We can't give you a loan on the basis of a lease. And some of them are coming forward and saying, we want to own, we want to have a sense of ownership of the land that you are distributing to us. So I think my own view is that rather than frustrate this deep quest that our people have about, yes, owning the land, we should not frustrate them by saying you cannot own. this land is now going to be owned by the state. We should allow our people to own the land. And I'm quite happy that we sit down and debate this issue, because the architecture of our land reform must be such that it is empowering to our people. It must lead to transformation, and it must get our people have a sense that they can identify with the land that is now going to be put in their hands. And as we do so, we must obviously take a number of issues into consideration. What you are suggesting was done for the mineral rights of our country, when the government said all the mineral rights are owned by the government. There were a number of people who protested and even took the government to court. But that was a different set of circumstances. In this regard, ordinary people want to have a sense of ownership of a piece of land. And some of them, particularly those whose land was taken away from, want a restoration of the land that was taken from them. So you and I have a lot to talk about, and we can debate this matter. But what is pleasing is that there's growing agreement amongst all of us that the release of land, the transformation that must take place in relation to land, and the expropriation of land is now becoming more and more accepted. We now need to move forward. And moving forward is going to mean that we deal with the categorization of the pieces of land that needs to be given to our people, so that it can drive economic growth, it can drive agricultural production, and ensure that there is food security. I think that that's where the debate must now revolve around, because we should no longer be trapped in the argument that, no, you should not move ahead with land reform by utilizing expropriation without compensation as one of the measures. We now need to move ahead, yes, distribute government land and identify a number of pieces of land. And let me say, one of the issues that are coming up is that a number of companies are coming forward, and they are saying to us, Mr. President, we have no business to be owning land. We have large tracts of land that can be parceled out to our people. Our quest is that we should continue doing business, and we want to be in partnership with our people. So a number of solutions and options are being opted for, and those are what we should now be focusing attention on. It was pleasing for me to be hearing people who have been opposing this prospect coming forward and saying, we have solutions. And the other pleasing thing is that there are black farmers organizations who are now united together with white farmers organizations who say they want to sit down and come out with a land reform architecture which they can put to government and out to the public. So we are onto something that can lead to really positive results. So I would like all of us as South Africans to move away from this fear psychosis that's been going around, particularly those who are going around and spreading lies and rumors, like organizations like AfriForum running overseas and saying the ANC is out for a land grab. There is no such thing. The ANC wants to make sure that there is land reform that is going to lead to the growth of our economy. The ANC wants to make sure that there will be increased agricultural production and food security. And if we embrace that type of approach, we are going to solve this problem and restore the dignity of our people by giving them the land that they should have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Nkomo.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. It's Honorable Shengwa who will be speaking on my behalf. Thank you.
Okay. Honorable Shengwa.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker, and our
You must
apologies.
alert us in advance when that mistake happens. Don't wait.
Honorable President, here's the problem. I would want to believe that your announcement in the late hours of the night, which was a feature of the past, was a knee-jerk reaction to some sort of pressure from somewhere.
It wasn't.
And you made it in the absence of a plan. You made it in the absence of fully taking into account the ramifications of what you were saying and also preempting the parliamentary process. And I'll tell you why I say that, Mr. President. A leader who speaks from both sides of his mouth is very dangerous. On the basis that on who you are speaking to, then you take a position. You spoke to the Afrikaner and you said there will be no changes to the constitution. And then there will be a change. So the question is, how can we trust such a delicate matter when we do not know where you fundamentally stand? And I put it to you, Mr. President, that as the chief author of the Constitution with your colleague, Mr. Rolf Meyer, before you move to the amendment of the Constitution, tell us, how did Section 25, which you wrote, fail? Take us into your confidence. Where did it fail that we arrive at this point in time, so that we have a better appreciation of the position that you are saying now? Because we all want land,
time is
but
expired.
we want under leadership we can trust and is honest to the facts.
Honorable President.
No, thank you very much, Honorable Hlengwa. Honorable Hlengwa, the announcement was made, yes, in the evening. It was not midnight, as some people have sought to suggest. And it was in the early part of the evening. And just as I said earlier, I made the announcement as President of the African National Congress. Just as any leader of parties that are here have been able to speak about this issue, but the ANC, being the majority party, has all the rights to put its position forward, to give leadership to the country about what needs to be done. And that's precisely what we have done. You may not like it, you may not like the fact that it was done in the evening, but it is what it is. The ANC has spoken on this matter, and the ANC has also said it is going to manage this matter as well as it should be managed. The second issue is Section 25 makes it quite clear that expropriation is a process that can be embarked upon. And you may well have a point in saying that we have not utilized it to good effect as well as it should have been used. Now, we embarked on a process. We embarked on a process of seeking to effect land reform in our country through going through the length and the breadth of the country, buying up land. And the budget that we had was never going to be enough. In fact, if you really want to know, if we were to follow that measure, because we have a number of measures that we can follow, if we were going to follow that measure alone, it would easily take us 75 years or 100 years before we achieve the objective that we seek. Now, what would it cost us? It would cost us easily more than 500 billion rand, 750 billion rand, money that we do not have. At the same time, we are facing a demand from our people, and this is what the ANC has had to respond to. Faced with the demand from our people, the deep quest for land amongst our people, it was decided that we now need to speed up the land reform process, and we should have, as one of the measures that can be utilized, expropriation without compensation, which is implicit in the Constitution. It is implicit. We can utilize this measure. We are now going to say, our people say, make it very clear, make it explicit by effecting an amendment to the Constitution, because it is implicit. It's not like we're doing something that's completely new and strange. Right now, we are able to expropriate without compensation. We want to make it clear so that we are able to say with greater clarity, it is one of the measures we can use, and we can use a whole range of other measures as well. So, Honorable Klengwa, we are not speaking from both sides of the mouth. We are speaking about a reality that exists, and this is what the Constitution of our country does implicitly enable us to do. And yes, indeed, it is a proposal from the African National Congress. The parliamentary process will continue, and as it reaches its fruition, the ANC will put forward this proposal. It will be debated. It will come back here, and we will discuss it, and the rest will then outflow. So fear not, Honorable Klengwa. This process is going to be as transparent as possible. And in fact, what we have said to the rest of our people is that come forward with your proposals. Many people have said, now there is certainty of where we are going. We are now able to make proposals on something that we can see where it is leading to. So I would like everyone here, including people outside, to come forward with proposals. And as I say, I am filled with deep gratitude that many of our people have been participating in all these discussions. And to us as the ANC, it's become very clear, very, very clear what our people are saying, and that is precisely what we are responding to. But we are also saying, let the process unfold, unabated, and we will then see how, in the end, the members of this House deal with the proposals that will have been put together. That's what we are saying. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, we move to the...
Deputy Speaker, sorry.
Oh, this Groenewald here, sorry.
Deputy Speaker, before
sorry.
Honourable Groenewald takes to the
Yes,
podium,
what are you
please,
raising
I
on?
have to express this concern. I'm serious this time around. I'm not joking. Look, Deputy Speaker, Deputy Speaker, the issue is here. I wrote to your office in particular, and I asked that we build some transparency into the follow-up question system here.
No,
later, please.
Honourable
please.
Member, no.
I'm not sitting down.
Honourable Member,
I'm not sitting down.
Honourable Member,
I need to make my point, Tata.
Honourable Member.
You can't continue doing this thing.
No.
You said 2 minutes, our 7 discretion, but we've been pressing here like complete fools. And what do you expect me to say?
Honourable Member, can
the
we
last
advise
time,
you?
Deputy Speaker, can you allow me to finish, please?
Honourable Member.
Can I make my point, please? When I stand up here.
Honourable Member, in the first place, you have said yourself you've written to me in particular.
Tata, I wrote a letter to you expressing our concern and dissatisfaction as the party about this follow-up question system here in Parliament, where there is no transparency, we have no way of saying who's next. You said in response to that letter I wrote to you on behalf of the UDM, you said...
Honourable Member, can I request you to finish? No, man.
No, but Deputy Speaker, the last time I got an opportunity to ask the President, the question was when he was still a Deputy President, and yet I've been pressing all the time. Do you think it's fair?
Honourable Member, please sit down, man. This matter has been dealt with before.
No, but
it will be dealt with again in the House.
No, but you're not using the same discretion you
Your
said
name
in your
is
letter
not
you are
here.
using. It was. General's name was there. I was there. I saw it.
Honourable Member, please, man. Can we come back to you? We've written to you. We've responded to you. Take your seat. Take your seat. We will respond to you again. The Rules Committee received a considered response on this matter, and we circulated it to you and to other members who were here who raised similar questions. Honourable Groenewald, please go on.
Order,
honourable members, order. Allow Honourable Groenewald to proceed, please.
Dank u, achtbare adjunct-speaker. Honourable President, I want to start by saying to you that I differ on your views. I don't think, and I'm sure, that expropriation without compensation is not going to speed up the whole land reform issue. And I also want to say that you yourself, in your answers today, have mentioned that investors want certainty when it comes to land. But I want to say to you, the people who really want certainty are the landowners of South Africa. They want the certainty of their land. And I know that you're a very good negotiator, and everybody knows that you have mesmerized the Rolf Meyer, and I suppose you have mesmerized some agricultural leaders also. But I have a message to you also today, Honourable President.
Honourable members, why do you ignore the time allocated to you? I'm afraid your time
No, Chairperson, no. I was interrupted all the time. I'll round up. Achtbare president, daar is ook 'n boodskap van ander boere. En dis 'n ernstige boodskap. Met respek gesê, die boere se boodskap is, hulle sal nie vrywillig afstand doen van hulle grond.
Honourable member, your time is
Dit
gone.
moet u ook verreken.
Your time is gone now. Honourable members, order. Don't do that to that member. He has a right to express his opinion. No, you can't. You can't. You want your views to be protected, to be said in the House. He has that right. Honourable members, please, your language. Honourable member.
Deputy Speaker,
what are you raising on?
Deputy Speaker, that man just threatened that they are not going to give off willingly. He just threatened that.
Honourable
that
member.
Afrikaners, that Boere will not give off willingly.
Honourable
and you
member.
allow this.
No. You should have in the first place rose to say that. Not to talk to the person in the way in which you did. There should be order in how we handle our differences. Honourable members, please, let's proceed with this matter.
We're not fighting. We're just telling him that we're not scared of him.
No. Honourable Madam, no. Honourable President.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, ek wil net sê, wat ons moet doen in hierdie land, ons moet sorg dat ons het transformasie. Ons moet ook sorg dat ons het ontwikkeling. En ons moet ook sorg dat ons het stabiliteit. Hierdie 3 dinge is baie belangrik as ons wil hê dat Suid-Afrika moet voorgaan. Nou, as ons nie transformasie hê nie, sal ons nie stabiliteit hê nie. Now, we have to balance all these things. Unless we have land redistribution in our country, we will not have stability. Those who say we want to hold on to our land, they may find that they hold on to something that does not exist anymore. So we must, as leaders, ensure that we transform, and transformation must mean that we have redistribution of land, because there is a historical injustice that was committed many years ago. The wound continues to fester. We must at the same time have development. Now, this is where we can all work together, and that is why, Honourable Member, I had great joy in talking to the agricultural organizations who said, we want to make sure that through the land redistribution process, there is development. We develop black farmers and make them successful, and we also distribute land where our people can live. And the important thing that we should all focus on is stability. Now, you can make your choice. If you don't want stability, then don't transform. But if you want stability, then we must transform. And we must therefore work together to make sure that the transformation process leads to development, which will finally give us the dividend of stability. That is precisely the equation that is at play here. Dit is transformatie, dit is ontwikkeling, en dit is ook stabiliteit. As ons onze oë op hierdie 3 dinge bywoog, we are going to make sure that our country succeeds. And hence I'm saying that we should not be afraid. Even the landowners must not be afraid to embrace this process. Now you say the landowners want certainty. I can tell you that those who do not have land also want certainty. It is the people who are hungry for land who want certainty from the government. And at the same time, the government must balance both so that we have a win-win type of outcome. That is what I aim to see happens in our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable members, we now move to question 18, asked by Honorable Malema to the President. Mr. President.
Honorable Maima, no, you said Maimane, it's Malema. Yes. Kisi, I see.
President, stop confusing it.
What is happening actually? No, he said Maimane.
You can't measure a giant against the kitty cat, please. Get it right.
Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable member. Honorable member, please withdraw that.
They are colleagues that have withdrawn.
Go ahead, Honorable President.
The question, Honorable Deputy Speaker, the question by Honorable Malema was, why did the government rush to sign the independent power producers? Now, the successful bidders, Honorable Malema, for the 27 independent power producer agreements that the Minister of Energy signed on the 4th of April had already been selected and announced in 2015. The 3-year delay was the result of a delay in the finalization of the power purchase agreements that needed to be signed by Eskom. The 27 projects from bid windows 3.5 to bid window 4 of the renewable energy IPP program were all procured during 2014 in accordance with long-standing government energy policy and statutory mandate. The commissioning dates of these projects correspond with demand and supply projections of the Integrated Resource Plan. In line with the IRP projections, the majority of the 27 projects will only start generating power and be paid for their output from late 2020. The 27 projects do not negatively affect Eskom's current capacity, but will supplement and support stable power supply, and as when Eskom commences with the decommissioning of its aged fleet as projected in the IRP. As a country, we need to build new, reliable power plants to grow our economy. The energy planning process for securing new generating capacity is not only directed at immediate short-term issues, but rather towards medium to long-term objectives. Increasing renewable capacity is a cost-effective means of reducing carbon emissions in our country. International research forecasts that new photovoltaic prices will fall around 20 cents per kilowatt hour by 2030, compared to the average Eskom's prices that will rise to over 100 cents per kilowatt hour as a result of, among other things, the full capital and generation cost of Medupi and Kusile. The benefits of the renewable energy IPP program will continue to grow. By March 2018, a total of 64 projects were in operation and under construction, representing a total investment of 142 billion rand. Renewable IPPs have created over 35,000 jobs for youth, for women, and citizens from local communities, and has invested around 766 million rand on education, health, and social welfare and enterprise development projects in various communities. Now, South Africa's groundbreaking renewable energy program is firmly rooted in the National Development Plan and is guided by the Integrated Resource Plan and has been part of ANC policy for over a decade. So this is not new, and it has certainly not been rushed. This was already agreed to, Honorable Malema, in 2015, and as I said, the delay in having this signed off was really a delay in finalizing the agreements. So you may have thought that this was rushed for this and that other reason. That is certainly not the case. It happened as it was supposed to happen and emanating from 2015. It's possible that you may not have been aware that this started in 2015, but it certainly is the case. Asintwe ya maobani. Ntwe itomile ka 2015, harinze re tswella pele. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Malim.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker and President. President, we are told that ESCOM currently produces energy much more cheaper than the IPPs. And when you plug in the new power stations like Kusile, will then have more access in South Africa. Are you not going to destroy ESCOM and lead to a situation where a lot of our people lose jobs, especially when you plug this IPPC into the national grid? So, or do we have other things which we may not know? Perhaps this is one of the cash haste that seeks to benefit your business associates and your relatives, particularly your brother-in-law, Patrice Motsepe, who is now coming to play into the space of independent power producers. So please answer honorably and truthfully.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Kitsibilo uya hona mo. Truth be told, Honorable Malema, the costing of the IRPs may seem like they are a little excessive, but the power that is generated by these IPPs is put into the grid. And once it is in the grid, it is blended with the power that is generated from our nuclear power station in Kuburg. It is blended with the coal-fired power stations from Witbank and all over. And the pricing in the end is, the pricing is never said to be IPP. Itlaba at a higher price, Kuburg, itlaba at a lower price. The pricing is blended within the whole mix. Now, ESCOM, yes, but in the end, the full blend, Entiwanki NERSA, is such that in the end, it is a blended price that ESCOM also has to pay. Now, We are saying that these power stations, as the renewable energy prices come down, it is going in the end to be a lot cheaper than what Eskom is generating power at. Now, you are concerned about we having a surplus of power. This surplus power is just a momentary transitional, because quite a number of Eskom's power stations are old and they have to be retired. In time to come, we are going to start seeing quite a number of our power stations being retired. Now, the obligation that we have is to make sure that the workers who are working in those power stations are not left high and dry and are unemployed. So that is where we now need to make sure that we create clear pathways for those workers, because those power stations, they are going to reach a stage where they are tired. The power stations, they are budgeted for it will be alive for 40 years, it will be alive for so many years. It's only the mine. The mines become depleted over time, and so do power stations. Now, the key issue for us and the main challenge is going to be, how do we make sure that those workers have a safe landing? Those workers who are working in our power stations are not left without any form of employment. And the good thing is that we've got a good lead time going there. And so therefore, as we are already committed to a mixed energy type of architecture, where we have renewables and where we have fossil and where we have nuclear and where we have hydro, we must make sure that across the board, we stick to that mixed energy architecture and ensure that the people who work in our power stations, who generate power or energy for us, do not in the end lose jobs. Now, these IPPs were done to advance certain interests. Now, I have nothing to do with any person who is currently in business doing either IPPs or whatever. I have nothing to do with that. People who are advancing their own businesses do so as it is their business. And where I am, I sit as a regulator and have made sure that I will never want to get involved in businesses of that nature. And I am very much aware of the fact that where I stand, I should never seek to advance the interests of relatives, interests of people who are close to me. And if they are conducting businesses, if I need to declare, if no Nekitla declare it's maybe fortunately or unfortunately. I would have said Malema Kiamutseba or Honorable Malema Kiamutseba, so that when the matter is discussed, I'm nowhere near there. And that is the ethical behavior that we expect. So if, say, my brother-in-law is involved in a business, he's involved in his own business, and there should never be any suspicion, Honorable Malema, for what we do or what I do as a regulator, and indeed what the Minister of Energy does also as a regulator. There should never be a suspicion for he is advancing the interests of a relative. And if you have evidence to prove it, bring it forward, so that evidence. We must stop casting aspersions. We must just stop spreading rumors. For Muketekete is being favored because Kisware some Muketekete, Kapokimalume wa Muketekete. That should stop. If we find where there is fault, there is corruption, then we must raise it on an informed basis and on an evidence basis. Reska barinse revitsama all over rebolela fela. Ukariko stock felling. As stock felling mu. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Maimani.
Honorable President, the previous president said the things you are
Honorable
saying,
Malema.
the same things.
Honorable Malema,
And
I'm going
even
to
saying
switch
to
off this
us,
mic.
we must
I'm
not
switching off this
spread
mic.
rumors when he was
Honorable
putting his
Malema,
hand in the
You are not
till.
supposed to do that.
Why you are playing?
You are out of order. Honorable Malema, you are willfully breaking the rules. You know what you should be doing, and you were warned in writing. Honorable Maimani.
Mo president, batho ba rona ko malapeng ba ntha ba re motlakase wa tura, wa ba imela. And it's within that context that we support IPPs because we believe our competition is good. It drives down costs, it helps. Now, for Lolololo, DA-led governments have requested, can we not allow the municipalities to have the right to procure energy directly from IPPs? This way, we are not stuck in a situation where consumers don't have a choice, municipalities don't have a choice. So don't you agree with me? The archaic nature of ESCOM requires review so that kamoso re fe bo masepala tšhono ya go reka motlakase from the IPPs directly so that they can offer our consumers cheaper energy over time rather than we keep the monopoly that ESCOM has been kuze kuyovala. Thank you very much.
Honorable President.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I think one needs a very keen understanding of the architecture of our energy process. The IPPs produce energy and put it into the national grid. By Kenya mo ditaponse kaofela tsona tsa ESCOM. We have one grid in the country. Now, a hona tsela ya gore ba motho a ga ilo reka motlakase mo IPP directly. Ka hobane e kena mo national grid. And this is what I was saying, gore, it is blended in the national grid. There are, however, some who are self-generating electricity in localized areas. For instance, some factories are generating their own electricity, either using bagasse, either using other types of renewable energy products. That is possible. But for a municipality, the electricity has to be put in the national grid and then in the end be channeled through into the municipality. If you are saying, however, or we need to look at ESCOM in the way where the ESCOM business can be looked at in a different way, where there's generation, where there's transmission, and where there's distribution. That is a different matter. Now, that is a matter that obviously can be looked at. It has been looked at before, and it is a matter that we will continue to look at to try and debate and find solutions around. So on that, I invite you to come with your pearls of wisdom, if any, so that you put them on the table. Thank you very much.
Honorable Esther Hazen, IFP.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Honorable President, as you asked for facts, why does the calculation for the levelized cost of electricity does not include additional tax cost? And also, why does the calculation not include the current environmental levy of 0.35 cents or the carbon tax of 10 cents per kilowatt hour? But further to this, Mr. President, it makes the Honourable Mr. Malema's statement correct when he states the price of electricity. Under the current arrangements, renewable energy companies get paid irrespectively whether ESCOM is paid or not. It takes municipalities months and years to pay ESCOM in some cases. But renewable companies is paid immediately, which makes a huge difference. So don't you agree, sir, that this is happening, and what are your government going to do going forward? Thank you.
Honourable President.
The issue of municipalities paying ESCOM within a reasonable time frame is a matter that we are looking at. The issue of the IPPs is a matter that is governed by an agreement that is reached between our Department of Energy, those IPPs in the end, as well as ESCOM. Now, we want, obviously, our municipalities to move to a situation where they are able to pay their liabilities quickly to ESCOM, because as we stand now, ESCOM is owed billions and billions of rands by our local municipalities. Now, the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Leaders is working precisely on this issue, going through each municipality's liabilities to ESCOM and finding ways in which those liabilities can be reduced and in the end eliminated. So government is involved in that type of process, and it's part of our process of improving service delivery at municipality level, service delivery that should lead not only to electricity being distributed in an efficient way, but also a whole range of other services. So we are busy and working on that. And I'm sure that we should be able to get solutions that have efficacy going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable Majola.
Thanks very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, I agree with you. Firstly, that we should not counterpose the different sources of the different energy sources because they are part of our energy mix. Secondly, that we should focus on the substantive issues. And the substantive issues since the introduction of the IPPs has been price and jobs. We have clarified the issue of the price. I want you to clarify better whether there's a relationship between the introduction of IPPs and the lifespan of the coal mines, and whether government will indeed consider that state-owned companies should get involved in the renewable energy sector. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Honourable President.
Yes, I mean, we would obviously like state-owned enterprises to diversify, yes, their business operations. And there are some that have an appetite to get involved in renewable energy type of projects, and we would obviously encourage that. Right now, I mean, I would say that, you know, and we shouldn't look at it in a negative way and say that there are definitely going to be all those job losses, because we are going to try and find ways in which to mitigate whatever job loss there may well be as the power stations age. And we already have a few power stations that have already started running out of their capability of delivering the energy that we need. But when it does happen, we will want to make sure that we are able to show up those workers who may well lose their job opportunities. But the energy mix that we have is meant to be seen also as a boon, where we can actually create more jobs going forward. And as we roll out the various other sources of this broad energy mix, we should see it as a job creator going forward. And there are quite a number of aspects of this energy mix that I believe can contribute very positively to job creation and to economic growth. Thank you very much, Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Mr. President, that concludes the business of the day.
And we thank you, Deputy President.
I had a cigar for Mr. Steenhuisen, and I'm happy to distribute it to him, as I did promise that I'll give him a cigar, particularly today for the good behavior that I think he demonstrated.
Honorable President, I think you and Mr. Steenhuisen is going to be called to the Speaker's office to explain tobacco exchange in the House. Thank you very much, honorable members.
Say the House is adjourned.
Imagine if you could learn everything you need to know about life from yourself. What questions would you ask? What wisdom would you share?
You fired! Unfair dismissal. Car accident. Court appearance. Let Clientele Legal tackle your legal problems. Whether it is a car accident, unfair dismissal, uncontested divorce, unfair blacklisting, or a wrongful arrest, we have tough professional lawyers standing by to assist you.
With the help of Clientele Legal, I kept my job and I can support my family.
I definitely got value for money. It didn't cost me a cent, just my monthly premium.
There was one man with his lawyer against a big bank and I won.
Car accident. Faulty goods or bad service? You fired! Unfair dismissal. No matter how big or small your legal problems, don't tackle them by yourself. Clientele Legal will do the tough work for you. SMS RIGHT to 32281 and we'll call you back.
Come here, man. This place is looking a mess.
Boss, you're holding the plans upside down.
Don't talk back. Mamba, you fired.
Unfair dismissal. Let Clientele Legal tackle your labor issues for you. We have tough professional lawyers standing by to assist you 24 hours a day. SMS DEFEND to 32281 and we'll call you back. SMS now.
Hello, it is Wednesday, which means we do bring you our feature, Going Green. Welcome to The Full View. I'm Shante Yankee, so thank you very much for joining us this evening.
I'm Arabile Kumeto. Of course, as she said, Going Green. This week we look at the state of sewage pollution in our rivers. A story that's trending as well is that of Adam Katsavalis, and his racist rant. And tonight we ask you in our question of the day, in light of Vicky Momberg's criminal record, should Adam be dealt the same punishment for his racist rant? You can post your comments to #FullView.
Yeah, definitely. We will be speaking to social activist and lawyer Tumi Sole just on that. Remember, you can also send us your voice notes or video call us at +27 if you are outside South Africa, 664798056. You can also view any of our interviews and features by going online, sabcnews.com, our Facebook page, and of course, you can find us on Twitter.
Yep, but first, let's get into your top stories for this evening.
Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa says land expropriation without compensation does not mean land grabs. He was answering oral questions in Parliament.
Not one inside.
The Human Rights Commission is investigating Adam Katsavalis' racist rant after he posted a holiday video online using racial slurs.
Across borders, Zimbabweans await the outcome of opposition's constitutional court challenge to last month's presidential elections.
Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa answered oral questions in the National Assembly this afternoon, which is still continuing. He did face questions from members of parliament on key issues like high unemployment levels and land expropriation without compensation and the effect of the VAT increase from 14% that came into effect in April this year.
I would like all of us as South Africans to move away from this fear psychosis that's been going around, particularly those who are going around and spreading lies and rumors, like organizations like AfriForum running overseas and saying the ANC is out for a land grab. There is no such thing. The ANC wants to make sure that there is land reform that is going to lead to the growth of our economy. The ANC wants to make sure that there will be increased agricultural production and food security. And if we embrace that type of approach, we are going to solve this problem and restore the dignity of our people by giving them the land that they should have.
Well, Democratic Alliance leader Mmusi Maimane lamented the escalating fuel prices. President Cyril Ramaphosa recently announced that the Department of Energy and National Treasury will be looking into finding a solution to increasing petrol prices.
Mr. President, I just want to remind you that your government voted against the amendments we made to adjust this VAT rate. But I want to raise with you, Mr. President, that the fuel levy now stands at R5.30 per litre, which means anyone filling up 50 litres is spending 265 rands. This also adds to the cost of paraffin. Our people are struggling. And what I'd like to say is that, in all fairness, this is corruption tax. Because when you look at the road accident fund, it is declaring losses and money is just being wasted. I want to ask you, Mr. President, you task your cabinet to say, let them present a plan as to how they're going to mitigate against this thing. And Minister Khatebe came here yesterday, was unable to produce a plan. You said on the 14th of, or on the 6th of July, they still have not done anything and it's 38 days later. Mr. President, I want to ask you, while you are here, is there in fact a plan to reduce the fuel levy, or is there not one? Or is there an accountable plan so that we can tell the people at home what there's hope for them? Because at this point in time, your ministers cannot produce a plan. So I'd like to know if there is in fact one, and can we hold you accountable?
Well, EFF leader Julius Malema spoke about the public hearings on land expropriation without compensation.
President, during the public hearings, our people came out in their numbers to support land expropriation without compensation. Many of them have said they want the land to build clinics, they want to build houses, they want to build shops, they want to use the land to benefit themselves and the nations out of South Africa. A point that you also agree with, particularly land expropriation without compensation. Our people are now subjected to concentration camps, which we call townships, and mislead ourselves that those things are residential areas. When they were planned, those things, they were not planned as residential areas. They were planned as concentration camps. Now, did you come up with a plan and instruct the Minister of Human Settlement to expropriate land closer to towns and suburbs where we can settle our people properly and take them out of that type of an arrangement of concentration camps?
AFP raised concerns over what is described as the Chinese global expansion relating to the recent loans accorded to South Africa. Chinese President Xi Jinping committed investment worth billions of dollars to South Africa.
He who pays the piper calls the tune. And China is going to be investing so-called 14.7 billion rands into South Africa, has given Eskom 2.5 billion rands loan for the Usile project. These aren't blank checks, Mr. President. And what is quite evident is that Tumamina has become Tuma China. And so, Mr. President, what are we doing to insulate and protect South Africa from the global expansion of China. Because whilst we may take their money, it's good that we protect ourselves. And I'll tell you why. Professor Lumgile Mondi of Wits says, and I quote, "Our membership in BRICS may seem as though we are complacent about China's behavior on the continent. It has not created any number of jobs, but instead it has brought a ship full of Chinese workers and built poor infrastructure." So do these investments actually translate into jobs? Or is it China easing off its own burdens back at home? And because